Celebrities not cast anymore. Hey guys, it's Alexa. Welcome back to another video. Hollywood is an ever-changing, ever-ridiculously hard to make it in town, and while these actors made it, they found out that the hand that feeds sometimes slaps as well. These actors and actresses all had promising, bright careers that seemed to come down faster than they went up. These are celebrities no one will cast anymore. But before we get into today's video, make sure that you are subscribed and ring the bell icon so that you never miss any upcoming videos. Michael Cera. This lovable, awkward goof of an actor seemed to be all over screens just a couple of years ago, but things have slowed down substantially for his career in the recent past. He was once a child actor and did work on the Berenstain Bears and then got his most famous role as George Michael on Arrested Development. He was then handed major roles in Superbad and Juno, and it seemed like things couldn't get any better for the kid. Yeah, he's still acting now, but one movie that really brought down his career was Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. The problem is, he doesn't seem to be a lead actor, and in that movie, he got the lead role. He seems a tad too awkward for the whole movie star thing. Poor Michael Cera. Kristen Stewart. Everybody knows this young lady from the Twilight Saga, but even before that, Kristen Stewart was making a name for herself in the movie scene. You may recall she played the little girl in Panic Room with Jodie Foster, or you may recognize her from Into the Wild with Emile Hirsch, Catherine Keener, Vince Vaughn, and even Hal Holbrook. When Twilight came along, she'd been at it for a long time, but the movies just thrust her name right into a lot of living rooms around the world, especially living rooms of households with teenage daughters. But then, Kristen's personal life began showing up in headlines, and it put a dent in her career, and she took a few movies that didn't do so well, and that was pretty much enough to seal her fate. She has found herself steady work in indie films though, and any work is better than no work. Mel Gibson. If you want to see someone who was once a huge movie star, a name that everyone would have thought would never go away, then you just have to take a look at Mel Gibson. This guy was excused for all sorts of behavior over the years and somehow managed to survive being a total jerk countless times. He spouted racist comments, called police officers names, hit his wife while she was holding her baby, got arrested driving drunk, and made a few bad movies on top of it all. But it wasn't until 2010 when he left a voicemail on his ex's phone hurling racist and sexist comments. When the recordings popped up, the world decided they had had enough, and Hollywood kicked the actor out on his butt. We're going to assume that he'll never make a comeback, at least not back to where he once was. Josh Hartnett. One of the worst things in the world is self-sabotage, especially when you're unaware you're even doing it. Josh Hartnett may have had a good reason and the best intentions for some of the decisions he's made, but he could have had a wholly different career, a career that made him more of a household name. Josh decided to take a step back from Hollywood for a while, turning down iconic roles like Superman, Batman, even Spider-Man. He didn't want to be typecast and stuck in the realm of the superheroes, but at the same time, he sort of lost any forward momentum he had gained over the years. He is now the star of the hit TV show Penny Dreadful, but that's pretty far from the movies that could have made him a superstar. Eddie Murphy. Anybody who is anybody has memories of Eddie Murphy making us laugh at some point in our childhoods, whether it be Dr. Dolittle, The Nutty Professor, or Coming to America. Eddie is a comedian that hit many a person in their funny bone. Even though Eddie Murphy had many hits throughout his career, he's also had a lot of flops, and that seems to have been enough to knock his career off the rails a little bit. Movies like Norbit and Vampire in Brooklyn did so poorly that it hurt his casting potential and made the public at large lose a lot of interest in whom many once probably considered one of the funniest men in America. He sometimes still gets offers and has a couple of projects in the works, but it's looking doubtful that he'll ever reach the level of fame he had 15 years ago. Taylor Kitsch. This young man was touted as one of Hollywood's next big things not all that long ago, but with a few bad movie choices, all that came crashing down around him. Kitsch has had a few hits that seemed to cement him as a rising star, and it was at the time of his climb that he took leading roles in John Carter and Battleship, movies that turned that climb into a crumble. These are two movies he should have left alone and let some other actor take, as both lacked a good storyline and the effects suffered, which in turn led to a lousy performance in theaters and overall. Lucky for him, Kitsch has found work on HBO and seems to be slowly making a comeback. Hopefully this time he picks his scripts wisely and steers clear of anything that might once again make him fall from grace. Amanda Bynes. Okay, so we all know that Amanda Bynes isn't cast anymore, and we can all remember the seemingly crazy things she did just a few years back to help cause that. Bynes was once a versatile and adored young actress who seemed to be destined for superstardom. No one would have ever thought she'd be essentially blacklisted from Hollywood entirely. She eventually got tired of all the young teenage roles she was typecast for and tried to push her way into more serious adult acting, but she quickly began to feel the pressure, and that's when she started getting into trouble. DUIs, alleged hit and runs, tantrums, and odd appearances took front and center over her acting abilities, and sadly she was not able to recover. She chose to leave acting behind and is now working in fashion design and seems to have gotten her mental health on track. Macaulay Culkin. This young man was once one of the young princes of Hollywood, and it very much so seemed as though he'd never be stopped. He starred in beloved films such as Home Alone, Uncle Buck, and My Girl, and his career barely slowed down throughout his childhood. Then he did a few movies which weren't fan favorites, and Culkin was basically tossed by the wayside. The poor kid got older and was no longer able to portray the cute little kid he once was, and once that happened, he learned just how dispensable child actors in movie land really are. He disappeared for a time, popping in and out of the public eye, and he now seems to be back, and he's looking good. He did a movie called Changeland, and we're all patiently awaiting Culkin's triumphant return. Steven Seagal. Alright, when's the last time you saw Steven Seagal in a good movie? For real, at one point the man was on top of the world and made a big name for himself in the action scene, but unfortunately, all good things must come to an end. He has kept on making movies and has managed to stay busy for the last few years, but he's had to take roles in things that Hollywood wouldn't touch, and in turn, it won't touch him either. He does still have something to offer, though. His martial arts training has come in handy in keeping the money flowing in as he trains young up-and-comers in Russia. He's also delved into law enforcement a bit and has worked with the Louisiana Sheriff's Office. Sylvester Stallone. Stallone was big for a time, physically and in the entertainment industry. The man seemed to have it all. Everything that Hollywood could want in a star in the 80s. He starred in hits like Rambo and Rocky, and their sequels, of course. He then went on to make a few movies that weren't so popular, like Judge Dredd and Daylight, and at that point his superstardom was over. It just seemed that once the 80s ended, there was no need for the over-the-top performances and stunts that Stallone could provide, and he quickly found himself working on smaller and smaller projects. He's done some decent work here and there, but he will never shine as brightly as the time he was Rocky Balboa and John Rambo. Taylor Lautner. This kid was huge back when Twilight came out, and those movies got him work in other projects as well. It seemed that millions upon millions of people were Team Jacob, and with that kind of popularity, he couldn't disappear. But disappear he has. When he took the titular role in Abduction, everyone was anticipating and expecting the movie to blow up, but it disappointed with a not-so-great storyline, and Lautner's acting wasn't all that impressive either, which made critics take note. He was torn apart, and critics accused him of relying on his looks rather than his talent to carry him forward, after his most famous role was Jacob, the shirtless werewolf. Well, he's felt the shock of falling from stardom and has had only a few minor TV roles since 2016. Hilary Swank. This talented and seemingly picture-perfect young actress appears to have been cast aside by Hollywood, and no one can figure out why. She didn't fall into a tailspin like many young actors and actresses. There were no drugs, no DUIs, no bad attitudes. Why did she get pushed out of the spotlight when she was doing oh so very well for herself? Well, it looks like the massive movie business got a little scared of her success. We mean, she did win a few Oscars basically back to back. She did a lot by the time she was 30, and at that point, everyone had had enough. She began getting smaller, less noteworthy roles, and never again hit the plateau she achieved so young. However, she doesn't seem to care as she's so busy with charity and volunteer work, and we're guessing that someday she'll make a big name for herself again. We have seen a lot of has-been celebrities already, and we still have one more left on our list. But first, we'd like to ask you, who are some of your favorite celebrities that have all but disappeared? Did they make our list? Let us know in the comments down below. 1. Nicolas Cage. Now, who doesn't know that Nicolas Cage was once a big star in pretty much everything for a really long time? As they say, all good things must come to an end. Maybe it's because casting directors finally realize that he's basically just the same character in every movie he stars in. He plays Nicolas Cage. He became a household name by starring and co-starring in countless films over the years, but that has dwindled in the recent past. Don't get us wrong, he's been in some terrific movies. But when you've only got one style of acting, it's bound to fall apart for you. It's okay though, he's become somewhat of a legend on the internet. Almost like Chuck Norris without all the cool karate moves.